අලුතෙන් SLT Mobitel Home 4G LTE connection ගන්නායට වටිනා tab computer සහ data දීමනා. අලුතෙන් SLT Mobitel Home 4G LTE connection ගන්නායට වටිනා tab computer සහ data දීමනා.
නව Tomex පැල්ලම් සහ විස බීජ අවම කර දින 3ක් දක්වා ටොයිලට් එක ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ව තමයි. Tomex.
Tonight, public pressure or sound policy? The central bank's depreciation of the rupee welcomed.
I think it's a good start, right direction.
But not all agree.
It seems that the bank has done the right thing in the wrong way.
This doesn't really solve it.
The cabinet nod. The president chaired Economic Council, which includes the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister and the central bank governor, to meet once a week. Women representation. Calls to allocate 50% of the national list for women. Need for a solid plan. Ceylon Shippers Council urges the government to abandon spot purchasing of fuel amid Ukraine war.
We see that only small patchwork is done and we are getting solutions day by day. This is not good enough for the exporters. We need something very concrete.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 8th of March, 2022.
Introducing New Hellmann's, the world's #1 mayonnaise brand, now in Sri Lanka.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamma Kekna. Now then, the central bank's decision to depreciate the rupee has been termed as a much needed move for the country, though some are unimpressed and question the timing of it. The central bank yesterday announced that greater flexibility in the exchange rate will be allowed in the markets, but was of the view that forex transactions would take place at levels which are not more than 230 rupees per US dollar. In addition to this, the cabinet has granted approval to raise the current incentive allowance of 10 rupees per dollar to 38 rupees per dollar, with the hope of seeing an increase in foreign remittances via legitimate channels.
Under the central bank's latest changes to the exchange rate of the rupee against the US dollar, the buying rate has shot up to 225 rupees and 2 cents from the previous rate of 198 rupees and 50 cents, which prevailed over the past year. Similarly, the selling rate of the rupee too has gone up and is set at 229 rupees and 99 cents, 27 rupees up from the previous 202 rupees and 99 cents. Some analysts welcome the move, saying the decision will bring greater flexibility to the exchange rate, while others, however, believe that the move only facilitates the existence of both black and white currency markets.
I think it's a good start, right direction, and also I think the governor has indicated that there is flexibility going forward. So I think given that, because what the country needs at this time is foreign exchange, and I hope this will open the door for the remittances to come in more, and I think today they have encouraged even a 10 rupee additional for the remittances. So we think it's the right direction.
With the present change of the central bank policy, it seems that the bank has done the right thing in the wrong way. Because when the central bank was faced with a similar situation in year 2000, what the bank did was to fully float the Sri Lanka rupee, and as a result, the bank was able to remove the speculative elements from the market. When the rupee was fully floated in year 2000, the rupee dollar rate, which was around 72 rupees prior to floating, had shot up to 95 rupees per US dollar. But when the speculative elements were removed from the market, the foreign exchange flows continued to come back to Sri Lanka, and as a result, within about 2 to 3 weeks' time, the rupee dollar rate was settled around 85 rupees per US dollar. If the central bank had done the similar thing this time also, the rupee dollar rate would have fallen to around 270 rupees per US dollar, but because it is much higher than the premium charged by the black market, the speculative elements would have been immediately changed, and as a result, the expected foreign exchange flows would have come to Sri Lanka, settling the rupee dollar rate around 245 to 250 rupees per US dollar. As a result of the present action, instead of actually eliminating the black market, what the central bank has done is it has become a chaser of the black market. Similarly, all the buyers of the foreign exchange too, instead of going to the formal markets to get their foreign exchange because there is no sufficient foreign exchange available there, they also will have to chase the black market.
This doesn't really solve it. This is a little bit like what we have been saying for a year and a half, is trying to bring in the right policy, but it's trying to bring it too late, and then when you examine it, it doesn't appear to be the right policy, though it is somewhat in the right direction. The government needs to have an exchange rate where if it buys at a particular rate, it should also be able to sell at the same rate to the customer or to businesses. Always a small spread, but not two exchange rates. Creating a black market in addition to the white market. This is not going to solve the problem, but this is the mess that the country has got into.
In the meantime, the Cabinet has green-lighted President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's proposal to convene the 11-member Economic Council on a weekly basis to ensure the island's economic development. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa as well as Governor of the Central Bank Ajit Nivard Cabral are also members of the Council.
The Cabinet of Ministers has approved President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's proposal for the Economic Council to meet weekly, which is intended to expedite the country's economic advancement. Relevant ministries, departments and statutory institutions are expected to implement decisions with the approval of the Cabinet if and when required, in line with the approval of the 11-member Economic Council. President Gotabaya will chair the council with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Trade Minister Bandula Gunawardena, Highways Minister Johnston Fernando, Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa, Agriculture Minister Mahinda Nanda Aludgamage and Plantation Minister Ramesh Patirana also being members of the council. Further, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka Ajit Nivard Cabral, Secretary to the President Gamini Senarath, Treasury Secretary S.R. Ratigala as well as Deputy Governor of the Central Bank Dhammika Nanayakara bring up the rest of the Economic Council. The council is tasked with discussing the local economic policies in depth and managing the overall economy of Sri Lanka. The Cabinet, in the meantime, has also approved the proposal to pay an incentive of 30 rupees per dollar earned on export earnings earned over the previous quarter to companies that have achieved at least 10% export progress compared to the corresponding quarter of the previous year. This incentive scheme is designed to ease the difficulties faced by exporters such as high inflation, severe foreign exchange deficit, restrictions on imports of raw materials, and high operating costs, and to increase the progress in export performance achieved during the last year. Implementation of the proposed incentive scheme is expected to generate additional revenue of $5.5 billion in 2022 compared to export earnings of 2021. Meanwhile, the Cabinet has given the green light to appoint 25 boards of inquiry to expedite the investigation into the complaints received by the Office of Missing Persons and to implement an expeditious program. The OMP has received 14,988 complaints across 5 regional offices set up in Matara, Mana, Jaffna, Batiklo and Kilinochchi.
Now the Minister of Finance Basil Rajapaksa will be visiting India during the second half of this month. In a tweet, the Indian High Commission in Colombo said that the decision was made following a productive and a cordial discussion that took place between the Finance Minister and India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar over telephone last night. Further, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar had assured that India will continue to support Sri Lanka in all possible ways. Further, they have agreed to finalise a mutually convenient date in the second half of this month for the visit of Minister Basil Rajapaksa to India. Now then, with today being International Women's Day, some strong views about increasing women representation in Parliament were expressed in the House. An opposition MP suggested that 50% of the national list be allocated for women, which in turn will drive the number of women MPs in Parliament to around 25. Meanwhile, another view expressed was to ensure that both women and youth combined account for 50% representation at local authorities.
අපිට සැබෑ වශයෙන්ම කාන්තා නියෝජනය වැඩි කරන්න ඕනි නම් මේ රටේ පක්ෂ නායකයන් ඕනකම තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම ව්‍යවස්ථා සම්පාදකයන් හැටියට මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුලේ ඉන්න ඇමතිතුමා ඇතුළුව ඒ වගකීම් ගන්නා ඒ මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට ඇමතිවරුන්ට අවශ්‍යතාවය පළවෙනිවට එන්න ඕනේ. අපි කොච්චර කිව්වත් 10 දෙනාත් 13 දෙනාටත් අතරේ තමයි හැමදාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මන්ත්‍රී ධූර ටික රැඳිලා තිබුණේ. ජාතික ලයිස්තුව අරන් බලන්න. කාන්තාවෝ කී දෙනෙක් මේ ජාතික ලයිස්තුවෙන් එනවද? සැබෑ ලෙස ඕනකම තියෙනවා නම් මම යෝජනා කරනවා 50% ව්‍යවස්ථාවෙන් දෙන්න කාන්තාවන්ට ජාතික ලයිස්තුව. අනිවාර්යෙන් 14 දෙනෙක් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුළට එනවා. අර දිරලා එන ගාන 10යි නම් 11යි නම් මේ 14 දෙනාත් ආවම 25ක් විතර වෙනවා. එතකොට 120ක් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුලේ කාන්තා නියෝජනය වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක මම ඔබතුමාලට මේ වෙලේ මතක් කරනවා. නාම යෝජනා ලැයිස්තුවේ 150 දෙන්න බැරි නම් 140ක් කාන්තා නියෝජනයට නාම යෝජනා ලබා දෙන්න කියන එක මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
මේ රටේ ජනගහනයේ 152ක් කාන්තාව, ඡන්දදායකයන්ගෙන් 156ක් කාන්තාව. හැබැයි අද කාන්තා නියෝජනයේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ 105යි. ඒ නියෝජනයත් අද බොහෝ විට එන්නේ අපි වගේ කාන්තාව. ස්වාමි පුරුෂයාගේ අහිමිවීම තුළ, පියාගේ අහිමිවීම තුළ, සහෝදරයාගේ අහිමිවීම තුළ. හැබැයි අපි කියන්නේ මේ රටේ දේශපාලනය කරන්න තෝරාගත්ත හැකියාව තියෙන කාන්තාවන්ටත් මේ දේශපාලන ප්‍රවාහයට ඇතුළු වීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය ඉඩකඩ අපි සලසා දෙන්න ඕන කියන මතේ තමයි මම ඉන්නේ. ඒවකට ජනාධිපතිතුමා, ඒ වගේම අගමැතිතුමා පළාත් පාලන ආයතනවල 102යි කාන්තා නියෝජනය තිබ්බේ. හැබැයි 125ක කෝටාවක් ගෙනල්ලා දේශපාලන ප්‍රවාහයට ඇතුළු වෙන්න ඒ අවස්ථාව ලබලා දුන්නා. අපි කියන්නේ හැමදාම මේ කෝටාව දෙන්න කියලා. හැබැයි අපි කියන්නේ කාන්තාවන්ට දේශපාලන ප්‍රවාහයට ඇතුළු වීමට දොර විවෘත කරලා දෙන්න. කාන්තාවන්ට తాවකාලිකව කෝටා ක්‍රමයක් දීලා දේශපාලන නිරත වෙන්න හැකියාව තියෙනට උඩට යන්න අවස්ථාව දෙන්න. ඔවුන්ටත් නාම යෝජනා ලබාගෙන අනිත් අය එක්ක තරඟ කරන්න පුළුවන් වටපිටාවක් නිර්මාණය වෙනතුරු මේ කෝටාව හරහා తాවකාලිකව අපිට හැකියාව ලැබෙනවා.
මං හිතන්නේ මේ කාන්තා නියෝජනය වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම ක්‍රමය ඒක නීති අනුකූලව ගෙනාවොත් පමණයි. අඩුම තරමේ ඒ කාන්තා නියෝජනයක් යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට එනකන් හරි යම් කිසි කාලවකවානුවකට මං කියන්නේ 100 ලෝකල් ගවර්න්මන්ට් එකේ තියෙන 125ත් මදි. කාන්තාවෝයි තරුණිය එකතු කරලා අඩුම ගානේ 150ක් හරි දෙගොල්ලොටම එකතු වෙලා එන්න පුළුවන් විදිහේ නීතියක් ලංකාව තුළ ගෙන මේක නීතියානුකූලව පුළුවන් නම් ගරු නීතිය පිළිබඳ ඇමතුමා මේකට යම් කිසි දෙයක් ඔබතුමාගේ ජස්ටිස් මිනිස්ටර් ඉන්න කාලය තුළ ඔබතුමා මේකට කරයි කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
අර්බුද දිහා බලනකොට කාන්තාව මූලික වෙලා අර්බුදයක් නිර්මාණය කිරීම ඉතාමත්ම අඩුයි. කාන්තාව දේශපාලනයට හා නායකත්වයට ඒම සඳහා අවස්ථාව සැලසෙන ආකාරයට ඉදිරියේදී නීති සැකසිය යුතුයි කියන ස්ථාවරයේ අපි ඉන්නවා. ඒක අපිට තනියෙන් කරන්නට බෑ. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුළ එවැනි කතිකාවක් ඇති කිරීම පිළිබඳව මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. ප්‍රවේශයක් හැටියට කාන්තාව දේශපාලනය සඳහා යොමු කිරීමට 2017 දරන පනතෙන් විශාල සේවයක් විශ්ත වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කිසිම බලාපොරොත්තුවක් නැහැ. දැනට තිබෙන අවස්ථාව අවම කරන්න. අපි කරනවා නම් කරන්නේ තියෙන අවස්ථා වැඩි දියුණු කිරීම මිසක. තව හොඳ යෝජනාවක් ගෙනල්ලා තිබුණා ශාන්ත බණ්ඩාර මැතිතුමා විශේෂයෙන්ම දූෂණයට ලක්වන කාන්තාවන්ට තමන්ගේ දරු ගැබ දිගටම තියා ගැනීමට අවශ්‍යද? එම නැත්නම් එය ඉවත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා නීතියෙන් අවකාශ ලබා දිය යුතුද? එම නැත්නම් මෙඩිකල් හේතු මත තමන්ගේ ජීවිතය හෝ දරුවගේ ජීවිතය තාමත්ම අන්තරදායී පත්වයට වෙත් වෙලා අවස්ථාවකදී ගබ්සා කිරීම අයිතියක් හැටියට ලබාගත යුතුද කියන එක මම හිතනවා ඒ වගේ දෙයක් සාකච්ඡා කිරීම හොඳයි කියලා අනිත් රටවල් වල මේක සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන හින්දා 2021 විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රවේශයෙන් සිට 62ක් කාන්තාවගේ දරුවෝ ලබාගෙන තියෙනවා. මේ ලංකාව විතරක් නෙවෙයි ඇමරිකාවේ අන්ඩර් ග්‍රැජුවේට් පොපියුලේෂන් එකෙන් 58ක් කාන්තාව. ඉතින් කාන්තාව අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සියලු ශාස්ත්‍රවල ඉදිරියට යනවනම් ඒ හා සමගාමීවම දේශපාලන ශාස්ත්‍රයේ උන් ඉදිරියට යා යුතුයි කියන එක අපි රජයක් වශයෙන් පිළිගන්න බව.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now then, Minister of Energy Gamini Lokuge is hopeful that queues for diesel seen at refueling stations across the country will dissipate come Friday. He says that the country will have enough diesel to last for 10 days once the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation takes a shipment of a 34,000 metric ton consignment today.
Speaking to AdaDerana English News, Minister of Energy Gamini Lokuge said that a consignment of 34,000 metric tons of diesel is expected to arrive at the Colombo port today. At the moment, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has 20,000 metric tons of diesel in storage, which is sufficient for 5 days of consumption. However, the Energy Minister said that the country will have diesel sufficient for 10 days once the 34,000 metric ton shipment is received. With this, Minister Lokuge expects the queues formed at refueling stations to disappear by Friday. Speaking further, he also said that 5 fuel tankers carrying 35,000 metric tons of fuel each which is purchased from the Indian Oil Corporation, will periodically arrive at the port after the 16th of March. Further, the government will import 250,000 metric tons of crude oil by the end of this month for the Sapugaskanda oil refinery to produce fuel, furnace oil and naphtha. With regard to the country's power situation, the Public Utilities Commission this evening announced the scheduled power cuts for tomorrow. Accordingly, areas that come under groups A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K and L will experience power cuts for 2 hours and 30 minutes between 8 am and 6 pm. Electricity supply for the said areas will be interrupted again for 1 hour and 15 minutes between 6 pm and 11 pm. In the meantime, areas mentioned under groups P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W will experience a 2-hour power interruption between 9 am and 5 pm. These areas will experience a 1-hour power cut between 5 pm and 9 pm as well. Further details on tomorrow's planned power cuts can be obtained from our official website www.AdaDerana.lk.
Litrogas has begun unloading domestic liquefied petroleum gas to the company's storage terminal in Kerawalapitia from one of the shipments that was floating off the Taldiyavatta area in Vattala. For this LP gas shipment was made last evening. In a statement, Litrogas also said that 2 other ships carrying LP gas have entered Sri Lankan waters. The company is hopeful that these shipments of LP gas would help restore the product supply in the local market. The 2 LP gas companies in Sri Lanka, Litrogas and LAVS, have been encountering issues in supplying products as the banks were not allowing them to open letters of credit due to the ongoing forex shortage. They also warned of a looming shortage in liquefied petroleum gas in the country as the stocks were expected to run out. Welcome back to First at 9. Now, Sri Lanka's Shippers Council calls on the government to prepare a concrete, credible plan in procuring fuel as US sanctions on Russian fuel can inflict grave consequences to the island. In the meantime, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce suggests a market-driven pricing formula for fuel, gas and electricity that will reduce the economic consumption, or consequences I should say, as a result of excessive demand created from subsidies.
We have suggested that there is a market-driven pricing formula for fuel, for gas and electricity. Therefore, we see sometimes there is excessive demand because of the subsidized pricing scheme that is there presently. So you cannot keep on causing a huge deficit in supplying at this subsidized pricing. And if this can be done quickly, maybe then there is a significant amount of foreign exchange that we can save. The next thing, of course, we have continuously said is to restructure our debt, because most of our reserves are going to pay our debt. So therefore, we feel the earlier we reach out to all our debtors and come out with a plan, then there is some way forward, and then we can use our reserves for the most important needs of our country, namely the essential imports such as obviously fuel, medicine, food products.
Yesterday, a barrel of Brent crude was quoted at $130 when the market opened, rising to its highest in 14 years. After ending at $119.40 yesterday, a barrel of crude ended higher today at $124.76. With the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, Sri Lanka Shippers Council expects greater consequences of the country's fuel supply if the government fails to introduce a proper plan for the procurement.
If the USA decides to sanction Russian fuel, which they are contemplating, the price will move up sharply, and those who have credible facilities with the suppliers will get their fuel. Now, if Sri Lanka doesn't have a plan of action, we will be facing severe consequences to this. So we urge the government to have a plan to be able to procure this fuel. Otherwise, we will be suffering the consequences in the months to come. This is a very important factor to consider. We see that only small patchwork is done and we are getting solutions day by day. This is not good enough for the exporters. We need something very concrete and to be very firm to come with a plan of action that will give credibility to the country and to the industry. Because the suppliers, if they delay, the buyers will move to other destinations, and to get them back is extremely difficult.
The Colombo boosted a closed in negative territory as the index ended 3.99% lower. The all-share price index ended 437.46 points down to end at 10,523.03. The S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks meanwhile ended in the red as well as it closed 127.35 points lower to end at 3,586.93. Meanwhile, the market saw an overall turnover of 3.4 billion rupees at the time of its close today. Diversified financial sector was the top contributor to the market turnover during the day. Now that the rupee has been depreciated to 229.99 cents against the US dollar, let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at Night. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.